Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 114 based on novel. So let's start. As the golden light dispersed, Xiao Yang's thin figure fell to the ground slowly and stood beside Murong Qianqian. His hands were negative, his eyelids were raised slightly, and his eyes stared coldly at Zhao Ying, who flew over again. Well, do you want to continue fighting? At the same time, Murong Qianqian and his jade hand waved again. With a crisp sound, Zhao Qi, whose face was swollen, finally couldn't hold on at the moment. His head tilted and fainted. Seeing their young master fall, Zhao Ying and Zhao Ling in the sky changed their old faces together. Immediately, they looked at each other and nodded suddenly. The next moment, their fighting spirit poured out madly. They rushed to Xiao Yang. "Boy, how dare you insult my young master today? You must die." As they rushed towards Xiao Yang, the insidious words in their mouths also came along. Then, the two people shouted a fierce drink together, waving their fighting spirit. Their powerful fighting skills quickly gathered in their hands, and the momentum from heaven made most people in the city unable to help but change their faces at the moment. The 9.5 emperors made joint moves. This nature is different from that just now. Although Xiao Yang can beat Zhao Ying and Zhao Ling with one punch, it's a single fight after all. But if the two fight together at the moment and work together, the ordinary strong is not an opponent at all. Even if Xiao Yang has extraordinary combat power, if he wants to fight two with one, I'm afraid the strength needed will be stronger than just now. Are you two going together? Want to win by quantity? Ah! Xiao Yang smiled coldly when he saw the two Zhao Ling who rushed to him. The strength of any of them was in the later stage of the 9.5 emperor. He would really feel a trouble, but if it was like this at the moment, Xiao Yang was sure to solve it. The mind moved, and in the middle of the eyebrows, the terrible and vast soul power suddenly swept out in all directions. Under the perception of Xiao Yang's soul power, the action of anyone between heaven and earth was slowed down several times in his eyes, including Zhao Ling and Zhao Ying at this time. As soon as his hands turned, the hands behind him immediately waved upward. At the same time, the fighting spirit in his body was also rapidly condensed in Xiao Yang's palms. When Zhao Ling and his two people were coming, Xiao Yang's palms fiercely bombarded them. Yellow spring palm, ancient imperial seal. With a fierce drink from Xiao Yang's heart, two palm prints condensed by gorgeous different fires were waved from Xiao Yang's palms. The two palm prints rose to meet the storm. In a twinkling of an eye, they had turned into 100 feet huge, like two walls of fire, and bombarded Zhao Ling and Zhao Ying. Facing Xiao Yang's attack, Zhao Ling and Zhao Ying looked more cruel. With a wave of Zhao Ying's big hand, the silver gun in her hand hovered rapidly in the palm of her hand like a windmill. Immediately, the palm of her hand held the silver gun tightly. As soon as the gun body shook, she hit the yellow spring palm opposite. The dragon breaks the sky. With a fierce drink, Zhao Ying's face was ferocious and her fighting spirit poured out wildly. Over Zhao Ying's head, a giant dragon transformed by the strong wind was quickly condensed. At the moment when the giant dragon took shape, it raised its head to the sky and sent out a roar. As soon as its body shook, it directly met Xiao Yang's Huangquan palm. On the other side, Zhao Ling's arms suddenly shook, and he quickly climbed up to his right arm. In a twinkling of an eye, he condensed into a pair of huge animal claws on Zhao Ling's arms. Tear the wind. With a cold drink, Zhao Ling suddenly waved a pair of huge animal claws, and then ran into the oncoming ancient imperial seal. Boom! In the next moment, Zhao Ling and Zhao Ying were fiercely bombarded with two powerful and terrible palms. In an instant, the earth-shaking explosion resounded through the world. All the people present felt a buzzing in their ears and couldn't help falling back. Some of the weaker ones turned white and vomited blood at the corners of their mouths, and their breath quickly became weak. In the sky, those 9.5 emperor strong men could not help but frown slightly. After a little hesitation, they quickly withdrew from a distance to avoid the disaster of fish in the pond. On the other side, Zhao Ling's face, which was full of ferocious killing intention, could not help but change again. Unexpectedly, with their human-level fighting skills, they couldn't smash the huge palm print in front of them with one blow. It's hard to imagine how terrible the strength of the people they used. Drink. Break it for me. They looked at each other, immediately nodded fiercely, and their bodies shook suddenly. The power contained in the silver gun and the beast's claws also soared wildly. Bang! A short moment later, in the roar of the two people, The Huangquan palm and ancient imperial seal displayed by Xiao Yang were finally defeated by Zhao Ying and Zhao Ling in a sound like the explosion of glass. When the fighting skills were broken, Xiao Yang's face suddenly changed slightly, while Zhao Ying and Zhao Ying looked at each other and smiled. There was a touch of sarcasm on their faces, which seemed to make Xiao Yang eat flat. It was a very happy thing for them. Drink. Boy, die. With a ferocious smile, they threw themselves into Xiao Yang again and rushed to kill him quickly. Xiao Yang suffered a dark loss with one blow, which seemed to indicate to them the appearance of Xiao Yang when he was completely defeated at his feet, which made Zhao Ying and Zhao Ying very hot at the moment. However, they didn't notice that although Xiao Yang just suffered a small loss, he didn't use his full strength from beginning to end. Moreover, the Huangquan palm and ancient imperial seal just now are just heaven-level fighting skills. Compared with human-level fighting skills, it's not easy to support the moment just now. At this moment, these two people can still produce this sense of superiority like victory in their hearts, which is really funny. With a sneer, Xiao Yang's slightly pale cheek finally showed a solemn color. The look of continuing to joke on her face was gradually converged, her eyes narrowed, the light in her eyes flickered, and the cold dawn flowed. In the face of the enemy, Xiao Yang has never been soft-hearted. What's more, he will not leave room for them to refute such a bully. Since he can solve it now, he naturally doesn't have to drag on. Make a quick decision. Family pattern, now. With a low whisper in his heart, Xiao Yang's heart moved. In the center of his eyebrows, the mysterious runes representing the emblem of the Xiao family also appeared. With the appearance of clan patterns, Xiao Yang's breath also became more terrible in an instant. At this moment, even the 9-star and half-emperor strong men in the sky could not help stirring up a wave when they looked at Xiao Yang. At the moment, Xiao Yang's breath has reached the middle stage of the 6-star and half-emperor in an instant. Moreover, the breath is still rising rapidly, just like a posture of going straight to the later stage of the 6-star and half-emperor. This scene, however, made those 9-star and half-emperors feel shock. Is this boy really using a secret method? But what secret method can improve so much strength for him? This boy is not an ordinary person. After living for so many years, they also saw for the first time that there was such a secret method, which could abruptly improve the strength of a semi-imperial strongman for nearly 1 star in a twinkling of an eye. This kind of thing can really be called appalling. Hey, since you've done it just now, it's my turn next. And just when everyone was shocked by this, the voice of words full of overbearing meaning in Xiao Yang's mouth suddenly came at this moment. The voice of words full of sneers just fell, and Xiao Yang's Chenjue step suddenly appeared at his feet. The breeze blew, and Xiao Yang's body that had originally stood on the ground disappeared in an instant. At the same time, Zhao Ling and Zhao Ying, who were in the air, immediately changed their looks, shouted in their hearts, and looked quickly around the void. With the exertion of Tianjuebu, in the blink of an eye, Xiao Yang's breath was completely integrated into the world. Zhao Ling and Zhao Ling had no way to explore. Once Xiao Yang suddenly shot, they would fall into passivity. Don't be nervous. There's no need to make a surprise attack to deal with you. Just solve it head-on. As they looked around, the void in front of them suddenly twisted violently. Immediately, Xiao Yang in black appeared in front of Zhao Ling. Now that he was born, Xiao Yang stared at Zhao Ling in front of him with a cold joke on his face. His breath was so terrible that he didn't dare to underestimate it at all. Arrogant boy. It was just my carelessness that caught your way. Now we work together. You can't be our opponent. But Rao is so. At the moment, Zhao Ling and others still don't take Xiao Yang to heart, and completely shirk their previous defeat into a temporary carelessness. As the words fell, Zhao Ling's body suddenly shook, his fierce claws waved fiercely, and made a sharp wind-breaking sound in the void in front of him. At the same time, Zhao Ying on one side also waved the silver gun in her hand again. They looked at each other, whirled together, and quickly rushed to kill Xiao Yang. Boy, die. With a fierce drink, Zhao Ying took the lead. With a fierce and unmatched domineering momentum in his hand, he twisted his body like a tricky poisonous snake and stabbed Xiao Yang. Facing Zhao Ying's domineering offensive, Xiao Yang's face also became cold and solemn. With a big hand, the gorgeous fire surged out in an instant, and fiercely greeted the oncoming Zhao Ying. Bang! Just for a moment, the raging fire collided with the cunning silver gun. The moment they collided, a fierce energy storm swept the whole sky. Everyone couldn't help flying back again. At the same time, the look on his face became dignified in an instant. At the center of the energy storm at the moment, Zhao Ying's heart also surged up with a sense of horror again. But then, in the depths of his pupils, he suddenly flashed a ferocious killing intention. After a short collision, the energy storm dispersed rapidly, and the vision of everyone in heaven and earth became clear again. In the sky, Xiao Yang's figure stands out. Zhao Ying's offensive is easily dissolved under his strange fire and solves Zhao Ying. However, there is no pressure on Xiao Yang's face. It seems that he is not facing 9 stars and half emperors at all. On the other hand, under the terrible high temperature of different fire, the body of the silver gun made of special black iron became hot at the moment, which was almost untouchable. However, Zhao Ying had to choose to retreat. However, while Zhao Ying retreated, the killing intention in her eyes became more and more obvious. Die. However, at the next moment, when Zhao Ying was repulsed by Xiao Yang, Zhao Ling's figure appeared in front of Xiao Yang like a ghost. When Zhao Ling appeared, his huge claws condensed by fighting spirit had been held high above the top. Immediately, under the eyes of all the people in the world, he hacked down Xiao Yang's head. The sudden appearance of this scene stunned everyone present. When they came back, Zhao Ling's huge claws had already fallen on Xiao Yang's head. The next moment was when blood splashed 3 feet. At this moment, everyone seemed to have seen the end of Xiao Yang. Everyone took back their eyes, and some girls felt a burst of regret in their hearts. In contrast, Murong Qianqian at the moment, although his pretty face has a touch of worry, in his heart, he still trusts Xiao Yang's strength. She knows that Xiao Yang is definitely not the kind of person who wantonly shows off his strength. Since he dares to deal with Zhao Ling, he must have his own assurance. Sure enough, the next moment, when Zhao Ling's claws were slashed from Xiao Yang and penetrated Xiao Yang's body, there was only a sharp breaking wind and the void torn by fighting spirit. As for the imaginary scene of blood spraying, there was nothing. Residual shadow. At this moment, the look on Zhao Ling's face was dull, and a blank appeared in the whole person's mind at the moment. It's hard for him to imagine how Xiao Yang, who is already the ghost under his claws, escaped his attack. At the same time, between heaven and earth, the look on the faces of the onlookers who saw this scene became extremely wonderful in an instant. How is this possible? This guy escaped. How did he do it? This son is by no means an ordinary person. When this scene in the sky appeared in front of everyone, suddenly, a voice full of astonishment spread like thunder between heaven and earth. Murong Qianqian on the ground couldn't help but breathe a long sigh of relief at the moment. Although she had the answer in her heart, she couldn't help a little excitement when she saw that Xiao Yang was okay at the moment. The speed is too slow. With this speed, do you really think you can hit people? In the sky, when Zhao Ling regained consciousness, Xiao Yang's cold voice also came into Zhao Ling's ears. Hearing the cold words that seemed to be close to her ears, the look on Zhao Ling's face changed instantly, and a pair of sharp claws waved hard at the void on her right side almost like a conditioned reflex. Dang! A violent collision came, and the power of terror suddenly broke out at this moment. The void around them also shook violently, and an invisible space ripple spread slowly. When Zhao Ling turned his head and looked away, his eyes looked stunned again. He saw his pair of proud claws. At the moment, he was caught in his hands by the black-robed man in front of him. What? Seeing this scene, Zhao Ling was suddenly surprised, and the look on his face became shocked. His body twisted, and then a whip and leg pounded Xiao Yang's head. Hiss! With the sound of a violent breaking wind, Xiao Yang's head tilted slightly, so he easily hid it. At the same time, his hands grasping the latter's claws also made a sudden force, and a punch pounded in the palm of his hand. With a bang, Zhao Ling's body was blown upside down by this sudden force. Let's go together. We must never give him a chance to breathe again. Feeling Xiao Yang's terror, Zhao Ling dared not have the slightest carelessness in her heart. She looked at Zhao Ying, and they nodded together. Immediately, they moved and rushed to Xiao Yang. Drink! Zhao Yingyin picked the gun and stabbed Xiao Yang's throat. Zhao Ling waved his claws hard and took Xiao Yang's head. Bang bang! Although their offensive was not weak, Xiao Yang always looked indifferent. When he raised his hands and feet, he blocked their killing moves one by one. At the same time, the different fire poured out, which made Zhao Ling suffer a lot. Bang! Another fierce collision, Xiao Yang hit the silver gun with a fist. Suddenly, the terrible force made the straight gun body quickly bend abnormally. Until Zhao Ling waved his claws again on the other side and rushed towards Xiao Yang snorted coldly. The powerful force of his right arm shook and poured out. Zhao Ying quickly withdrew a few steps even if she couldn't help it. Then Zhao Ling came to Xiao Yang, and his claws danced rapidly. In the twinkling of an eye, hundreds of fighting skills came at Xiao Yang like a steel knife. Even the void was forcibly torn along the way. At the same time, Zhao Ling also bullied the body, held his claws high and chopped down Xiao Yang's head. Ancient imperial seal. Broken. One palm burst out, and in a twinkling, they resisted those fighting skills one after another. At the same time Zhao Ling bullied him, he suddenly clenched his fists, moved his mind, and the body of Vaja glazed glaze suddenly showed up. When the sharp claw fell, he grasped it in the palm of his hand. Ah! As soon as he grabbed Zhao Ling's claw covering his hands, Xiao Yang shook it with a big hand. Suddenly, the claw in the palm was crushed with a click. Then, as soon as Xiao Yang's big hand opened and closed, he punched out again and blew Zhao Ling's body away again. At the moment of turning around, Xiao Yang's fist suddenly waved, and at the same time, he opened his mouth angrily. Huang Quan's anger came out. Zhao Ying attacked behind him. Her body in the void suddenly stiffened, and Xiao Yang also landed on his body impolitely. In the twinkling of an eye, the two 9-star and half-emperors were all defeated in Xiao Yang's hands. Between heaven and earth, everyone was shocked by Xiao Yang's thunder means. Unexpectedly, looking at the whole western region, they were all real peak-level figures. It was incredible that they would become so vulnerable in front of this black-robed youth at the moment. However, Xiao Yang didn't stop blowing them away. Now the war has been decided, but what he has to do is to completely end the battle. He has to prepare to end the war. Heaven created palm. The heart suddenly gave a fierce drink. Xiao Yang, like a giant god in the sky, suddenly hit the void in front of him with a big hand. Suddenly, a dark circle with fire waves spread across the world with Xiao Yang as the center and spread rapidly towards the void in the distance. In the blink of an eye, they covered Zhao Ling's body. Suddenly, the unique phagocytic power of Dacian Zhaohua palm spread out. Zhao Ling's body was swallowed by Dacian Zhaohua palm. Under the deep darkness, there was a burst of painful scream immediately. In the sky, the faces of those who saw this scene could not help but change slightly. Even if they only looked at it, they would not feel cold. Naturally, there is no need to say more about the power of this fighting skill. However, just when everyone thought that Zhao Ling and Zhao Ling were about to die under Xiao Yang's great heaven and fortune, a faint old word suddenly came between heaven and earth. At the moment when the word came, everyone's face changed in an instant. Even Xiao Yang at the moment could not help showing a deep dignified color. This little friend, you have to forgive others. You have taken advantage of everything today, and they have been punished by you. For the sake of my old face, let's expose it. Hearing this, Xiao Yang's eyes narrowed suddenly. Murong Qianqian on the ground below also shot his eyes at Xiao Yang at this moment. They touched their eyes for a moment. Immediately, Xiao Yang nodded fiercely, moved his mind and took back the heaven creation palm. At the same time, he whispered in his heart. Unexpectedly, in this small Sulan city, you can meet the strong at the level of fighting emperor. I'm afraid the strength of the 4 families is even more unimaginable. When the old man's words spread between heaven and earth, everyone in the field was surprised at the moment, especially the 9-star and half-emperors. Their faces also became frightened at the moment. Unexpectedly, the matter between several semi-emperors would startle this one. It seems that this should be the ancestor of the Zhao family. It's good. Tut. Unexpectedly, even he was startled. Hey, old man Zhao loves Zhaoqi very much. Usually, the boy is arrogant and domineering. Half of his confidence comes from his grandfather, a strong man at the level of 2-star fighting emperor. High above the sky, several 9.5 emperors were whispering to each other about the situation in the field. The words were full of fear for the so-called Master Zhao. It's strange that Zhaoqi has fainted because of this guy. According to common sense, Master Zhao should have appeared long ago. How can he be so polite to this boy today? When several people talked about it, they couldn't help but feel suspicious about the old man's abnormal behavior. Hey, as early as a year ago, the ancestors of the Zhao family had touched the barrier of the 3 stars fighting the emperor. I think they are about to break through now, but when they encounter this kind of thing, they naturally can't show up in person. Otherwise, with the old man's temperament, the boy should have been torn apart long ago. Moreover, the owner of the Zhao family happened to leave the Zhao family temporarily because of some affairs. Now the Zhao family has no head. Even the 2 strongest 9-star and half-emperors have lost in the hands of this boy. Now the Zhao family naturally can't do anything about him. The attitude of the Zhao family's ancestors naturally decreases. Hearing these words, the other 9-star and half-emperors immediately understood. At the same time, they couldn't help showing a look of surprise on their faces. No wonder the ancestors of the Zhao family loved him so much that their grandchildren didn't show up. It turned out that they had to make a breakthrough again. At the same time, on the other side, Xiao Yang in the void also converged his breath, and the released Da Tianzhuohua palm slowly dissipated. Zhao Ling, who had been swallowed by the painted black energy aperture, also reappeared in the sight of everyone in a burst of screams. His eyes narrowed, and Xiao Yang's fierce eyes slowly swept across the sky. The look in a pair of dark pupils quickly became dignified. He could clearly notice that since the old man's voice came out just now, there has been a momentum and pressure in this heaven and earth. Although the pressure did not fully appear, it also made Xiao Yang feel a deep chill in his heart. It was not until after the good film was carved that Xiao Yang raised his eyes, hugged his fists, arched his hands at the sky above his head, and said solemnly, "Since the elder came forward, the younger generation should give the elder this face. That's all for today." In the face of the strong fighting emperor, even Xiao Yang, who is arrogant, has to restrain his temperament. After all, he can't deal with the strong at that level. If he can't be careful, once the other party starts to fight him, Xiao Yang will have no power to refute. Aware that Xiao Yang stopped, the ancestors of the Zhao family also took back their momentum and authority. As the 9-star-and-a-half emperor said before, now he is in the critical period of breakthrough, and it is very dangerous to rush. If he keeps this state all the time, it will not be good for him. Hehe, I believe it's just a misunderstanding today. Now that the misunderstanding has been cleared up, I'd like to invite you two to my Zhao family. Of course, first, they are strangers. I think it's the first time to come to my Sulan city. My Zhao family is good to be the host of this friendship. Second, it's the indulgence of the people and offended my little friend. My Zhao family also hopes I can apologize to you. If you don't mind, you can stay in my Zhao family for a few more days. My Zhao family will be polite. After hearing the speech, Murong Chanxian ignored Zhao Qi, who had passed out of a coma. With a twist of her body, she came to Xiao Yang. Her beautiful eyes turned away from the latter and said with a smile, "Well, do you want to sit down? I think the old man seems to admit his mistake. You can eat something delicious, he. Oh, you see? What do you take? You see the old man? If we really go, it's hard for us to come to the door to fight them and catch turtles in a jar. The other party is a strong fighter. There may be some reasons why he doesn't take action, but once he takes action, we just can't escape." For the girl's words, Xiao Yang sneered. His eyes solemnly swept across the sky. In the center of his eyebrows, the vast and terrible soul force suddenly swept out and carefully explored the void he stood in. After the good film was carved, Xiao Yang took back his eyes again, looked at Murong Chanxian on one side, and immediately said to the void above his head, "We appreciate your kindness, but we still have to hurry. It's inconvenient to disturb more. I'll say goodbye to you too." He arched his hand at the void above his head. Xiao Yang pulled Murong Chanxian aside and wanted to turn around and leave. The situation has developed into such a situation that Sulan City has no security for Xiao Yang. Especially now he has to protect Murong Chanxian around him, which makes him do everything carelessly. In the face of the emperor fighting strongman who has not appeared, it's better to walk away rather than continue to stay, so as to save trouble. However, just as Xiao Yang turned around with Murong Chanxian, the old man's voice came again between heaven and earth. This time, with the old man's voice falling, everyone's eyes in heaven and earth stared at Xiao Yang in an instant. "Hehe, why did you leave in such a hurry? 2 years ago, you didn't show any fear against the 4 patriarchs. Today, I, an old man, let Xiao Yang take the initiative to avoid." The voice fell, and everyone's eyes in the world became shocked in an instant. One eye fell on Xiao Yang like a spotlight. In that eye, there was surprise, doubt, shock and greed. Xiao Yang, the name that has been submerged in people's memory with the passage of time, is gradually remembered by people in the field with the old man's words. Even some people who can't recall it originally quickly shorthand the name that shocked the whole Western region 2 years ago because of the reminder of the people around them. Xiao Yang. His Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang, who was chased and killed by 4 major sects 2 years ago. He's still alive. Doesn't it mean that they have been caught by the 4 main doors? Fart. Those caught are just Xiao Yang's impersonators. I'm afraid this is the real Xiao Yang. In the void, those 9.5 emperors also stared at Xiao Yang with complex eyes at this moment. Although they were very excited about the promise made by the 4 major doors at the beginning, they also saw the terrible combat power that Xiao Yang has at the moment. Even they can't shake that power. At this time, the crowd on the ground below has become eager to try. Those 9-star-and-a-half emperors can keep their heart in front of great temptation, but they can't. For those who are not strong enough, the imperial pill is so attractive. There are other martial arts and fighting skills, which gives them no reason to refuse. The promise of the 4 major gates suddenly made the hearts of these ordinary strong people hot. Ha ha. Unexpectedly, Xiao Yang appeared again after 2 years. Let's go together. As long as we can catch him, the bounty of the 4 main doors will be ours. On the ground, a dark head shouted excitedly, and took out their weapons one after another. The columns of fighting light rose rapidly into the sky. The gorgeous light reflected between heaven and earth, fused with each other, condensed a strong momentum and pressure, and oppressed Xiao Yang above the void. Seeing this, Xiao Yang could not help frowning. Unexpectedly, the old man could recognize him. It seems that the ancestor of the Zhao family wanted to borrow these people's hands to get rid of himself. What, little girl, do you still think that old man is a good man? His face was not moved at all. Xiao Yang turned his eyes to Murong Qianqian and asked with a smile. Hearing the speech, the girl could not help frowning. After cursing the Zhao family's ancestor in her heart, she turned her small mouth lightly. Her beautiful eyes swept the crowd below her eyes, frowned at Xiao Yang and asked, "What now? If they do it together, it will be troublesome." He shook his head slightly, but Xiao Yang smiled and turned his eyes to the 9-star and half-emperors above the sky. In his opinion, only these people can stop him. As long as they don't do it, no one can stop him in this Sulan city today, except the ancestor of the Zhao family. Several people saw Xiao Yang's eyes, but they smiled at Xiao Yang kindly. One of them also replied to Xiao Yang. "Ha ha, we have admired your excellency Xiao Yang for a long time, but we don't care about the bounty of the 4 main doors. Therefore, please help yourself, don't worry about us." As soon as this remark came out, Xiao Yang felt as if he had been reassured and arched his hands at several people in the sky. Immediately, he turned his eyes to the dense semi-emperors on the ground below. The terrible pressure rose quickly in front of Xiao Yang with an overwhelming momentum, just like a huge warcraft, and pressed Xiao Yang hard. His face was cold and he snorted. Xiao Yang's eyes narrowed, the cold light in the depths of his pupils flickered, and his body trembled. Immediately, he stepped forward fiercely. For a moment, a vast terrorist momentum swept out of Xiao Yang's body. At the moment of collision, heaven and earth were quiet, and immediately followed by a cold hum that startled heaven and earth. The next moment, the momentum gathered by the joint efforts of the people in the city was destroyed by Xiao Yang. The power of destroying the withered and decadent drove the people in the lower city back in an instant. While the momentum was crushed by Xiao Yang, everyone's face turned white in an instant. Those who are not afraid of death will come. With a fierce drink, everyone's face changed in unison between heaven and earth. No one expected that the momentum gathered by everyone in the city would be completely crushed by Xiao Yang. This result is unimaginable. At this moment, even the 9-star and half-emperor strong in the sky felt a deep shock for this. The momentum of rolling over a city by one's own power. In front of them, this seemingly ordinary young man in black robes really brought them too many surprises. Whoever thought that a 6-star and a half-emperor could defeat the 9-star and a half-emperor and crush the people of a city with his own strength? Today, such things that no one would believe actually appear in front of them. How can they continue to calm down? As the words in Xiao Yang's mouth fell, the momentum just ignited in the city below quickly dissipated while Xiao Yang's words fell. In the face of Xiao Yang, who is more terrible than the 9 stars and half-emperors, these people can only avoid. At the same time, the ancestor of the Zhao family also calmed down with full anger. Xiao Yang's strength surprised him. I thought that as long as he revealed Xiao Yang's identity, countless people would rush up to Xiao Yang. In this way, his Zhao family could kill Xiao Yang without a single soldier. Unfortunately, he underestimated the power Xiao Yang had. Under the pressure of Xiao Yang, those people didn't even have the courage to rush up, let alone kill Xiao Yang. His eyes were cold and swept slowly from the group of people below. Soon, Xiao Yang took back his eyes, raised his eyes again to the 9-star and half-emperors above the sky, smiled at them and arched his hands. When the latter saw this, they didn't dare to neglect it at all. They also hugged Xiao Yang and arched their hands. Then Xiao Yang pulled up Murong Qianqian on one side, moved his body, and flew away outside Sulan City. When Xiao Yang was about to leave Sulan City, the voice of the ancestors of the Zhao family sounded again between heaven and earth. "Xiao Yang, I wrote down what happened today. After I leave the pass, I will meet you in person, anytime." When the hoarse old voice fell, Xiao Yang also made a cold sound without looking back. Immediately, he took Murong Chanxian in one hand and moved his body. Tianjue's step came out in an instant. In a twinkling of an eye, he had disappeared in everyone's sight. When the breath of Xiao Yang and Murong Chanxian completely dissipated between heaven and earth, the people in the city gradually slowed down. I will think about what happened before. Everyone has an unreal feeling in their hearts. However, the emergence of Xiao Yang makes them gradually understand. It seems that this western region will cause an uproar again soon. The hero, Xiao Yang, who appeared for the first time in Sulan City after 2 years. When Xiao Yang appears, the whole western region will be turbulent because of him, and the 4 major gates will no longer be calm. The search around 2 years ago will be staged again 2 years later. Now, Xiao Yang's strength is stronger than that 2 years ago. Even the 9-star and half-emperor has not been paid attention to by him. I'm afraid he can deal with him, only the real strong man fighting the emperor. In the twinkling of an eye, it has been half a month since Xiao Yang and Murong Chanxian left Sulan City. In this half-month, Xiao Yang marched westward with Murong Chanxian. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, Xiao Yang and the two also put on a black cloak. With their breath restrained, they were safe all the way. Although they met several waves of people who came to find Xiao Yang trouble on the way, all of them were quickly solved by Xiao Yang with thunder. Murong Chanxian said a lot less along the way. It seemed that he was worried about bringing trouble to Xiao Yang, so he was on his way with Xiao Yang non-stop. At the same time, there was a trace of loss in the girl's heart. After half a month's rapid progress, Xiao Yang and her husband were less than a week away from Shahepu. At the thought that he would be separated from Xiao Yang in a week, Murong Chanxian couldn't help feeling like a little daughter. But at the thought of Xiao Yang's situation, the girl had to go all out. The reason why Xiao Yang tries her best to go is not only to avoid those who want to kill him, but also to ensure the safety of Murong Chanxian. But in this case, how can she ignore Xiao Yang? In the twinkling of an eye, Xiao Yang and Murong Chanxian appeared before a city again. Yangcheng. Hey, I heard that there are a lot of good things at the auction in Yangcheng. Many forces and aristocratic families have sent people, and several strong fighters have come. Haha, yes, it's said that the Alliance of Herbalists sent people here this time. It seems that the flaming flower appeared at the auction. Hey, it's the best of fire medicinal materials. Unexpectedly, its owner would take it out for auction. Hearing the words from the people around him, under the dark cloak, Xiao Yang's plain face suddenly showed a look of surprise at the moment. His eyes narrowed. Xiao Yang turned to Murong Chanxian and said, "You can try to be modest when you enter the city this time. Under my perception, there is no difference between the strong at the level of fighting emperor." Hearing the speech, the girl under the cloak nodded gently, but immediately followed, but it seemed like a sudden reaction. She quickly looked at Xiao Yang and said, "Is there a fighting emperor here? Let's not go in. If you are found, it will be dangerous." Don't worry. As long as you're careful, there won't be any big problem. Even if you're found, you can't fight. We'll just run. And there are some things I need here. In the end, Xiao Yang's eyes suddenly burst out a pure light. In the depths of his eyes, he didn't feel a surprise. Originally, he thought it would be hard to find such things, but Xiao Yang's luck seemed very good. He didn't expect to meet them just a month after he left Shilin Mountain Range. In that case, how can Xiao Yang let it go easily? After all, if he missed it this time, he doesn't know when to get it next time. Flaming flower. Blazing flame flower, which is a necessary medicinal material for refining ice elixir, is no less important in ice elixir than ice spirit cold liquid. Last time when Xiao Yang was in the cave of the burning lion, he got the blazing flame crystal. That thing was the product of the energy condensation of the blazing flame flower. Originally, Xiao Yang thought he would get the blazing flame flower, but he didn't see it in the end. This matter has always been remembered by Xiao Yang. Now that he really met it, Xiao Yang naturally won't let himself miss it easily. A thought flashed in his heart. Xiao Yang immediately smiled. Even with Murong Chanxian beside him, they walked together and walked slowly towards the burning city in front of them. In the strange eyes of the sergeant guarding the city, Xiao Yang walked slowly. At the same time, in the center of their eyebrows, the vast soul power quietly spread, exploring the strong forces in the city. After entering the city, Xiao Yang found a residence at will. After a simple settlement, they walked on the street full of people again. The oncoming sun made Xiao Yang narrow his eyes slightly and look at the huge city outline in front of him and the people coming and going in the wide streets. Xiao Yang couldn't help but tut and marvel. In terms of scale alone, the scale of Yang City is much larger than that of Sulan City. Even the wild ancient city in the southern region can't match it. Therefore, the scale of this burning city is also conceivable. Of course, by contrast, the things here are naturally not comparable to the wild ancient city. Because of the so-called auction, many strong people have gathered in this burning city. Here, the weakest one that Xiao Yan can feel has reached the level of 1.5-star emperor. Compared with other places, the gap is obvious. At this time, the most news from the crowd was about the auction. On both sides of the street, shops lined up neatly, and the flow of people kept coming in and out. The proximity of the auction also brought huge profits to these shops. In peacetime, such a grand event is rare. They walked slowly through the flow of people. Until this time, they really realized the great attraction of the auction house. After some understanding, Xiao Yang knew that there were still 3 days before the opening of the auction. 3 days later, Xiao Yang looked back and realized that there seemed to be only 3 pills left on his body. 3 imperial elixirs. At this auction, even those who fight against the emperor and the strong will be excited about it. I'm afraid he really can't have a chance to win the flaming flower. Alas! With a helpless wry smile in his heart, Xiao Yang raised his eyes, but found that he and Murong Qianqian had stood in front of a medicine workshop. Seeing the 3 characters of Chenyaro Square, Xiao Yang couldn't help but pick up his eyebrows. The name made him feel like a déjà vu. Turning his head, he looked at each other with the girl who took off her cloak. The girl smiled, while Xiao Yang frowned. After a little thought, he slowly stepped into the 1,000 medicine workshop in front of him with the idea of trying. The purpose of Xiao Yang's visit is not only to collect some information about the auction, but also to find some herbs he needs. In addition to the flaming flower, the ice elixir also needs many other medicinal materials. Although Xiao Yang has collected a lot, he still needs a few after all. If he can find them here, Xiao Yang will save his effort to search everywhere. But along the way, Xiao Yang saw only some small and medium-sized shops. Xiao Yang clearly knew that there could be no medicinal materials he needed in those shops, and the 1,000 medicine workshop in front of him made Xiao Yang feel sorry. The 1,000 medicine workshop in front of Xiao Yang is the largest medicine workshop Xiao Yang has seen all the way. At the same time, at the periphery of this medicine workshop, Xiao Yang can clearly detect an extremely terrible oppression. Needless to say, it must be a barrier set by a strong emperor himself. It can let the strong at duty level do it in person, which can explain the details of the 1,000 medicine workshop. If you can find what Xiao Yang needs here, Xiao Yang can count as a worthwhile trip. The 2 of them had just stepped into the medicine workshop. At that time, a strong smell of medicine came to Xiao Yang's face. In the face of this situation, Xiao Yang was naturally used to it. He frowned slightly, shrugged his nose, and ignored it. On the other hand, Murong Qianqian, who came to this place with strong drug fragrance for the first time, made the girl's face turn red quickly, and then he couldn't help sneezing hard. It was not until the good film was engraved that the girl gradually got used to the strong medicine fragrance in the medicine workshop. Xiao Yang smiled and took Murong Qianqian to the expert of the medicine workshop. Many people have gathered in the medicine workshop at the moment, and exquisite jade boxes are neatly placed in crystal counters. The medicine fragrance in the air is overflowing from the jade box. The counter in the medicine workshop is divided into 3 areas. One is the pill area, the other is the medicinal material area, and the other side is the array plate area. Compared with the 3 regions, there are undoubtedly a large number of people in the pill area. After all, for these people, even if they are semi-imperialist and strong, pill is still the top priority for them to travel. In the western regions where there are many semi-emperors, even if you are a semi-emperor strongman, you can't ensure your life safety. Compared with those energy-frenzied herbs, a pill can save lives at a critical moment. Therefore, most people don't mind buying pills. As for those herbs, except the herbalist, there will be no other contact. As for the array area, there are also more than a dozen people thinking about buying, but in the medicinal material area, there is no one except a few herbalists. For this phenomenon, Xiao Yang had no choice but to shake his head. There was no way. The pill could be taken to recover the injury and protect his life. The array plate could be arranged with mysterious arrays, and it was both offensive and defensive. There was only medicinal materials. Almost no one was willing to touch more than a pharmacist. The appearance of Xiao Yang and Murong Qianqian attracted many people's attention, especially when they set their eyes on Murong Qianqian beside Xiao Yang. A pair of pupils were full of light. Naturally, there was no need to say more in men's eyes. As for those women, they frowned, and a look of jealousy flashed across their face. Some even impolitely pinched the man next to them, and immediately turned away unhappily in a burst of pain. They walked closer slowly, but they didn't choose to see the medicinal herbs and pills first, but directly came to the counter where the array plate was placed. Although Xiao Yang had seen the array, the opportunity was just a casual skim. But it was really the first time that he could observe it carefully just across the distance of the counter. Moreover, Xiao Yang has always been curious about the so-called array mage. He can be as famous as the herbalist. Xiao Yang really wants to see it. When he came near, the metal array plates in the shape of a disc appeared in Xiao Yang's eyes. The array plate here is different from those medicinal herbs and pills. It does not need to be protected by a jade box, but is neatly placed in the counter. Each array plate is engraved with an extremely mysterious array symbol. The array symbol looks crooked and does not follow the rhythm, but vaguely, it releases an indescribable breath, which makes people feel the mystery of the array plate. While Xiao Yang and Murong Chanxian were looking curiously at the array plates in the crystal counter, I don't know when a gorgeous and graceful lady came behind them. Cluck. Sir, do you want to buy array disc? This video will end here.